Previously on the Seventh Valkyrie, the Full Moon's Guard arrives to protect the Star Lake, the heart of the Western Expanse, from the forces of creeping corruption. What does the aftermath of this battle hold for Cyrus? Well, find out now on the Seventh Valkyrie. Chapter 3. Like the Wind. Cyrus. The fourth night of winter, sometime after midnight. Despite the warm breeze blowing across the star's lake, I held my arms tight to my chest and shivered, wrapping Bram's jacket tight around me. Out in the distance, the snarls of the hunting wolves still echoed among flashes of green that lit up the real world and the unseen one with energies and currents. But even all that sensory noise was secondary to the night-black wolf I watched, standing upon the water at the center of the lake. Erytheme was silhouetted against the starry night sky, ringed in pulsing green that now hummed in rhythm along with the energy of the lake. He was synchronizing with that heartbeat that pumped life and golden light out into the entire forest. And through their resonance, Erytheme and the expanse that he protected, I could sense the woods slowly being wiped clean. The lesions and sores on the world began to fade, and the clashing war between that corrupting oil and the golden water turned back to just the smooth song of the deep woods again. I looked down at my hands. They had been glowing when I'd reached the lake, ringed in the gold of the water. But even as I tiptoed to the shore's edge and dipped my hands in the lake, they didn't spark again. The only sign of that flare-up of power, a gift was what Tristan had called it, was the unsteady reflection of gold I could catch every once in a while on the edges of my eyes. And my eyes were gold already. Wiping my hands clean for probably the 100th time since we'd been attacked by the corrupted wolves, I looked out to the far shore. It was desolate. The forest had been leveled by the explosion of the corrupted Floragons. But what remained was actually flooding in with green, leaving behind no sign of the beasts that had brought the expanse so close to the edge of chaos. Now, the only mark of the creeping oil and the corrupting fog was an itch on the back of my neck and the racing memories of the fight. We had won the battle, for the time being. There was a skip in my heartbeat, and I noticed Erytheme striding towards the shore, melting slowly from wolf into man, like mist burning away under the first rays of morning. Raylara waited for him, already in her human form, and embraced him quickly, exchanging a few quiet words before she strode off into the night and disappeared with a white flash. There were others, members of the Moondogs that melted from the night and out of their wolf forms, offered reports and words of comfort and condolences, all before they too sped off again. But in time, the stream of the others stopped, and Erytheme's shining green gaze turned my way. His long, graceful strides along the shore brought him to where I waited. Remembering my manners, I dropped to a knee, bowing my head in front of him. "Rise, Valguardian," he said, examining me. His eyes met mine and narrowed. "Perhaps there's more to your power than I first expected. Your heart resonates here, so close to the strength of the wild and the force of the stars." Crossing his arms, he grumbled. "With this dark shadow upon us once more, we may need to call upon that power." He crossed his arms. "But a wolf cannot teach a Valguardian, no more than a hawk can teach a salmon to fly. Where you go, our allies may be able to offer more guidance. Tristan!" Behind me, enormous footsteps marked Tristan's arrival. The cuts in the wounds where he had fought to protect me from the beasts still showed, but they were starting to fade already, maybe even faster now that he was in the presence of Erathime.
"I leave the boy in your care,"
Erathime said.
"You can still run, can't you?"
Tristan snarled in defiance, and for a moment the faintest hint of a smile passed over Erathime's eyes.
"Good. Valguardian, fortune does not favor those who look back. Move onward, and may the moon light your way."
And that was it. Without a backward glance, he turned, joined by still more of the wolves, and before long he too had melted into the night with the rest of the full moon's guard. Turning to Tristan, I started to realize that he hadn't changed back from his wolf form. Instead, he crouched down to all fours. It took a second and a grumpy growl from him to get the point, but eventually I carefully and awkwardly climbed up onto his back. I was still finding my balance when he bumped and shook me down into a prone position, nestled between his powerful shoulder blades. His dorsal fur flared, and understanding his point, I tangled my fists in the thick, smooth silver hair he had and grabbed hold. He got up, tested my grip a few times with a shake, and then growled to me once, questioning. Yeah, I guess I'm ready to go. I thought I was. I wasn't. With a lurch, he began to walk, then reached a trot, and then a steady run, testing that I could stay mounted on his back as he ran. Then, he accelerated along the river, gently but constantly, and it was only around then that I realized that I had no idea how fast a great wolf could run. I was about to learn. The moonlit trees began to whiz by us faster and faster, until the wind howled above and only the shield of Tristan's head kept the sheer force of it from dragging me off his back and throwing me into the air like petals in the breeze. Squeezing tight to him, I held on, gripping for all that I had as we sped along the riverbanks. First twice, then 3 times, then many times faster than any horse could ever dream to run. When the river bent, sometimes Tristan simply leapt the gap, meeting the banks on the other side so smoothly that the landing barely jostled my grip. No creature that large should have been able to move so gracefully, but Tristan just did. Behind me, I could sense the power of the wolves fading into the distance, but it lingered on even as we left them far behind. Long into the night, I kept my mind's eye on them, a fading glow like a candle left to burn down. But in time, exhaustion caught me and my grip loosened, and the smooth rhythm of Tristan's charging shoulders lulled me to sleep. My eyes flashed open and I scrambled for a grip on Tristan's fur only to find cold, dusty stone beneath me. He was here, and I was back. I folded down against the floor, closing my eyes shut, praying that I could just fall back asleep and wake up on Tristan's back. But then that rasping, derisive voice echoed out through the expanse of darkness.
"Pathetic. I expected nothing less."
I closed my eyes even tighter shut. He wasn't real if I didn't let him be. Tristan would protect me. Heavy boot steps on the stone steadily made their way closer, closer, closer to me until I could feel his presence right above me.
"Get up,"
it said. I cowered against the floor. He pressed his boot under my shoulder and flipped me effortlessly, sending me crashing back against the ground. I gasped for air as he snickered, stepping towards me again. But I wouldn't give up. I scrambled across the floor, pushing myself away from him, narrowly avoiding a stone podium lit with dozens of candles. He was smirking in the shadow as he advanced towards me, covered with the uneven light of hundreds, no, thousands and thousands, maybe even millions of candles that lit the space around us. It might have been a church or some sort of sanctum. I couldn't tell, but I knew instinctively that this was where I had seen Bram's flame, and where I'd first met the fire of the world's ending after he had burned me alive. It looked different. There were more candles now, and I could hear the echo of sounds against walls rather than fading out into the endless black, but despite the surface differences, this was the same place. The fire kept walking towards me, golden eyes gleaming in the darkness, still snickering as I pushed myself across the floor. But with suddenly gritted teeth, I stopped, jumped to my feet, and reached out across my back for the sword, drawing it in front of me. Stop! Stop right there. I'll use this. With another little chuckle, the fire took a few more steps, until he was standing just beyond the wavering blade tip. Shaking his head, he reached back, pulling back his hood. He had long hair and a short-trimmed beard, both shining in a shimmering gold that matched his eyes. And matched my eyes. A Valguardian.
"Surprised to see a familiar face,"
he rasped, cracking a smile as he fingered the tip of the blade. I don't care who you are. If you step forward, I'll use this thing. His look returned to disgust as he met my eyes again. This time, though, their flash of gold was no trick of the light, and he erupted into flame, suddenly encased in an inferno 20 feet high that singed the tips of my hair and sent me reeling back in fear. But as I tried to retreat, he reached out and grabbed the sword from me, effortlessly pulling it back and examining the blade. With a hand to the sharp end, he bent it in half, then watched as the forged steel turned to molten iron, dropping and leaving behind a hissing puddle as he moved forward again. I stepped back again as he continued his advance, eyes still gleaming gold. No, but if he could do it, I could do it. Tristan had said I had a gift too. All around me I could feel some sort of golden power hanging heavy in the air, like the wisps of smoke coming from each torch, each candle. There was something here. I breathed deep, trying to hold it in, trying to capture it. The smoke surged into my lungs, and I felt that golden power start to fill me. Come on, I could do this. I breathed deeply again. If I could just fill up with enough of... He moved so fast that my head spun. Well, it was more like he was simply in one place at one moment, and then in the next there was a hand around my throat, and I was on fire. My hair and my clothes burned away as he stared at me. Inferno burning around both of us.
"You think I enjoy torturing you?" he asked. "You think I enjoy watching you struggle like a runt set free to wander the fields and die?"
I was burning. I tried to pull his hands from around my throat, but they just flaked and cracked. My eyes began to steam, and yet I couldn't shout or cry out. I was trapped.
"You're weak," he said. "You're pathetic, worthless. This world will burn you alive, and I will rebuild you as many times as I damn well have to. Pathetic, pathetic, stupid, stupid."
My skin burst alight, and as he seared my nerves down to the bone, all I could sense was his rage as he shouted at me.
"Pathetic, weak, worthless. Pathetic, weak, worthless."
Pathetic, weak, workless. Cyrus? I woke up with a start. Tristan was starting to slow, the rhythm changing for the first time since we'd set out, and I scrambled for a grip on his fur. Slower was a relative concept. I would still be turned into a Cyrus-flavored pile of goo if I fell off at this speed.
Cyrus, you good?
Okay, yeah, before you fall out, grab a hand on him. Okay, find the rhythm, and... Alright, we good?
Yeah, settled. What the hell, kid? I couldn't get through to you. I mean, I could see you freaking the fuck out, but you blocked me, man. I do not like being ignored.
I didn't respond to C, the annoying voice in my head, and instead I held tight to Tristan and buried my face in his fur. Just a bad dream. Just a bad dream. Just a bad dream. Pathetic, weak, worthless.
Hey, Cyrus, what are you talking about? You okay?
I was getting really tired of strange dreams and annoying voices in my head.
Excuse me? Do you have something you want to say?
No, I'm sorry. It was the fire. Or at least that's who I saw. It felt like he was right there. It was like when I saw Bram. C was silent for a bit before he spoke again.
Well, at least that makes sense for why I got blocked out. Don't let him give me a bad rap. I know he's an annoying, spooky demon bitch, but I'm your friend, so, let's keep this clear. Obviously, two unexplained phenomena, whatever, but, seriously, kid, we're on the same page here. Did he tell you anything important?
Pathetic, weak, worthless. Not really. Just hated me.
Yeah, that's not exactly what I'd call, constructive criticism.
I nodded, leaning my head against Tristan and looking out into the growing light of the morning as we ran. The trees looked way different now, less densely packed and with fiery reds and oranges and browns dotting the branches, rather than the ever-present vibrant greens of the expanse. We were racing along hillsides now, not riversides, and they were rising and falling. In the air, I could taste salt from an ocean that occasionally peeked over a hill to our west, and to the east, the ridge sides of mountains obscured the first lights of a rising sun. And it was cold. Even buried in Tristan's fur, there was a defined chill in the air. How far north had we gone? Eventually, we slowed even further. Now we leapt from hillside to hillside, the elevation change having seemingly no effect on Tristan's speed. And then finally we stopped in a little valley sheltered on all sides by hilltops and rivers. Tristan did a little pace in a circle, sniffing the air carefully. And then he nodded, and with one shake of his shoulders, he launched me off of his back onto the ground. By the time I regained my feet, rubbing my tired legs and still wobbling from the motion of riding him, that powerful breeze of his transformation had come and gone. Human Tristan was back, stretching out and groaning.
You hang in there all right, kid?
He asked, slowly making his way through what seemed like every bone and joint in his body and cracking it. I took a step, wobbled, and stood fast. Yeah, doing all right, I said, dropping to my knees from a head rush. Would have preferred a little heads up for that last launch, though. I could have gotten off by myself if you'd asked. He laughed.
Well, what fun would that be? To be fair, you might be a bit woozy after that long of a ride. I know I sure as hell am every time I change back after that long as a wolf. Howoo! Woo!
He howled out, then cracked his jaw.
Instincts keep kicking a bit too. Hey there, kiddo, I'm gonna take a nap, I think. Been running too long. Feel free to do whatever you want around here. Forests closer to man country ain't nearly as wild as the Heartland. Nothing dangerous is coming close while I'm around.
Just how far did we come? I asked.
Far enough,
he said, folding up his pelt and laying it down like a pillow.
We'll be up north by sunrise tomorrow, but we won't be able to travel until nighttime though. More eyes around here, and we like to keep things on the down low outside the Heartland. I'm sure you spent enough time amongst the Eterans to know why that's a good idea.
I nodded. I could see how a giant wolf charging across the mountainside in the light of day might cause a bit of a panic. He was fading to sleep fast, so before I forgot, I raised my voice. Hey Tristan. Sorry to bother you. This is gonna be a weird question. Did you notice anything, change about me when I was up on your back? Maybe while I was sleeping? Yeah. But nothing out of the ordinary, at least not what it seemed. People always get a little weird when they're dreaming. Didn't seem like nothing too out of the ordinary for me, like I said. Why? What went on? You get hot dreaming of some little snuggle and snarl with a thing back home? Need to go take some time in the woods? He got a wolfish grin and my face went red. No, it was just a nightmare. I think I'm gonna go take a walk.
Well, just make sure you're whacking where I can't hear you,
he called as he rolled over and curled up against his pelt. Tristan, it's not that. Oh, God. I walked away from him as his snorting laugh quickly gave way to snoring. Want to know what happens next? Join us on Patreon to become a hero of Edera and get early access to episodes along with bonus features, director's commentary, and the full Tab to archive. You can also find other ways to support us at the links in the description, and we will see you next week.